At the moment of his birth, the Buddha is said to have declared, "Every living being is precious beyond measure, and I will ease the suffering of this world." Have you ever had a moment, maybe late at night, when a strange question crept in? What am I actually living for? You go through the days, you wake up, commute, stare at screens, go to sleep, and somewhere inside that routine, you stop for just a second and wonder, if this keeps going, where does it all lead? It's not that life is terrible. You're not in crisis. You have food on the table, but there's this quiet, hollow feeling in your chest, like something is missing, like you left a part of yourself somewhere and you can't quite remember where. Or maybe it hit you during a transition, when you walked away from a job you'd given years to, when your kids moved out and the house went silent, when you looked in the mirror one morning and thought, I don't have a role anymore. In those moments, the question rises up almost on its own. Was there a reason I was born? I'd like to sit with that question together today, because buried inside a story from over 2,500 years ago, the story of the Buddha's very first moments on this earth, there is a gentle, unexpected answer waiting for us. A young merchant once told me he asked himself this question while sitting in traffic, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors he'd stopped noticing years ago. In that instant, he realized he'd been so busy proving something to people he no longer cared about, that he'd forgotten what made him feel alive. That night, unable to sleep, he picked up a book about the Buddha's life, not out of faith, but out of desperation, and found something he wasn't looking for. Let's travel back, about 2,500 years. Imagine a beautiful garden at the foot of the Himalayas. It's early summer, warm and fragrant. White flowers bloom in every direction. In the distance, snow-capped mountains rise against a clear sky. A woman named Maya is passing through this garden on a journey home, where she plans to give birth. She pauses beneath a tall sal tree and reaches up to touch one of its branches, and in that moment a child is born. This child would one day be known as the Awakened One, the Buddha. Now what happens next is where the story becomes extraordinary. The newborn is said to have stood up, taken 7 steps toward the north, and then, pointing one hand to the sky and one hand to the earth, cried out in a clear voice, "In all of heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one. This world is filled with suffering. I will bring it peace." Strange words for a newborn, but their meaning runs very deep and very warm. We'll come back to them in a moment. Back at the palace, an elderly sage heard news of the birth and came to see the child. The moment he laid eyes on the infant, tears began to stream down his face. The king, alarmed, asked him, "Does something bad await my son?" The old sage shook his head. "No, I'm not crying from sadness. This child will grow up to save all people from their suffering. I weep only because I will not live long enough to see that day. That is my one regret." The king listened in silence, his heart filling with a strange mix of pride and fear. And quietly, secretly, he began to pray, "Please, don't let my son know suffering." But of course, the boy would grow up. He would step outside the palace walls and encounter old age, illness, death, and a wandering monk searching for truth. That encounter would change everything, and it all began with those words spoken at birth, "In all of heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one." When people first hear this, it can sound like the most extraordinary act of arrogance imaginable. A newborn declaring himself the greatest in the universe? But that's not what it means at all. In Buddhist teaching, the word I in that declaration doesn't refer only to this one child. It refers to every living being, every person who has ever drawn breath, every creature that has ever struggled to survive. In other words, every life that is born into this world is irreplaceable, utterly singular. There has never been anyone exactly like you, not in all of history, not in all of the future. You are, in the truest sense, the only one of your kind. That is what the honored one means. Not superiority, singularity. Now the second half of those words. This world is filled with suffering. I will bring it peace. This is where the purpose of life quietly reveals itself. Buddhism teaches that suffering is woven into existence. Illness, aging, loss, the gap between what we wish for and what we receive. No one escapes this. It isn't punishment. It's simply the texture of being alive. But here's the tender part. Because you have suffered, because you know what it feels like from the inside, you can recognize it in someone else. You can sit beside them without flinching. You can say without performing, I understand. The old sage who wept at the child's birth, he wasn't just seeing a great leader. He was seeing a life that would take the world's pain seriously, a life that would not look away. In Japanese, the word for purpose or mission is written with two characters, one meaning life and one meaning to use. To use your life. For what, for whom, you don't have to answer that with something grand. Cooking a meal for someone who is tired, sitting quietly with a friend who can't find words, smiling at a stranger on a hard day. That too is using your life. Let's bring this a little closer to home. If someone asked you right now, what's the purpose of your life? You might freeze. Most people do. Is it earning money? Raising a family? Reaching a goal? Those things matter. But many people who've achieved exactly what they aimed for still find themselves standing in the middle of it, feeling curiously empty. The summit was real. The fullness they expected wasn't. Buddhism has a word for the shift that changes this. Rita, caring for others. Acting not only for yourself, but with someone else in mind. The Buddha's teaching suggests that it's precisely here, in that turning toward others, that life begins to feel like it means something. Take a moment if you're willing. Think back across your life, and find one moment when you truly felt glad to be alive. Not proud, not relieved. Genuinely, quietly glad. Was it when your child said thank you for something small? When you showed up for a friend who was falling apart? When work you'd done quietly, for years, turned out to have helped someone you never even met? When you held the hand of someone you loved who was sick? I'd guess that in almost every case, someone else was in the picture. Maybe the purpose of life isn't something you find once and carry forever. Maybe it's something that emerges slowly, in the spaces between you and other people. There's a detail in the birth story worth holding on to. The newborn took 7 steps. In Buddhist symbolism, 7 steps represents moving through every realm of worldly suffering. But what I keep coming back to is simpler than that. He walked. From his very first breath he moved forward. And so can you. Not with a grand declaration, just a step. Call someone you've been meaning to call. Write the note you've been putting off. Say the thank you that's been sitting in your chest unsaid. That's enough. The purpose of your life doesn't live on a distant mountaintop. It lives in today's step, in whoever is waiting just ahead of you. Before we close today, I want to leave you with just one thing. You do not carry a meaningless life. Not even on the most ordinary days. Not even when no one notices. Not even when you yourself can't feel it. From the moment you were born, you were already the only one of your kind, irreplaceable, unrepeatable, belonging to no other moment in history but this one. Those words spoken at the Buddha's birth, across more than 2,500 years, were never meant only for him. They were meant for you too. So if there are nights when you lie awake asking, why was I born? Please know this. The very fact that you are asking means you are living with your whole heart. That question is not a sign of emptiness. It's a sign of depth. Thank you truly for spending this time here with me today. Wherever today finds you, please be gentle with yourself and take one quiet step forward. I once knew a man who spent 40 years as a shopkeeper, arranging the same shelves, greeting the same neighbors, asking himself that very question every single night. On the day he closed his shop, 100 people came to say goodbye, each one carrying a memory of a moment when he had truly seen them. He had never known the impact of his ordinary days until they were gone. This is how the world transforms, not through grand gestures, but through the accumulated weight of a life lived with presence and care.